Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second session in her Your Money, Your Future webinar series. This time, we'll be discussing pension management and legacy planning for a secure future. My name is Dorcas Adiola, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Just in case you missed out on the first session where we discussed how you can manage your finance for a secure future, just head over to our YouTube page so that you can catch the replay and be fully equipped for your financial success. Today, we have experts in the pension management and estate planning industry who will be shedding light on how we all can ensure that we are building for financial success now, in the future, and even for our loved ones. Before I bring on our MD CEO for his welcome remark, please take note of the following. First, this session is being recorded and also available on our YouTube. And so that what that means, after the webinar, you can always head over to our YouTube page to watch a replay. We are also live on YouTube, so you can invite your colleagues and friends to join us live. Also, as we go on in the session, please use the Q&A button just below your screen to drop your questions. We have our personnel on ground to answer your question as we go along. We would also have a Q&A section after the presentations. And so we encourage you to stay attentive so that you don't miss out on any vital information for your financial success. So let's get right into it. Please welcome our MD CEO in person of Mr. Rotimi Adebi for the welcome remark. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to all our esteemed clients. We appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend this webinar. It needs to be very enlightening. The title is Your Money, Your Future, Part 2, Management and Legacy Planning for a Secure Future. Please relax, take rapt attention, and ensure you take down your notes. At the end, there'll be time for you to actually do some Q&A. Thank you all. Over to you, Dorcas. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that warm remark, sir. And with this, we are getting right into it. Our first speaker today is Oluwatoyin Onibonje. Toyin has over 16 years of experience in pension management and business development. She's currently a business district manager at Crusader Sterling Pensions Limited and has several certifications in marketing and client service management. Toyin, over to you, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dorcas, for the introduction. Good afternoon to all our customers and our business partners out there. We thank you for joining us today on our webinar, Your Money, Your Future. So today we are going to talk about how you can enhance your retirement savings account through multi-fund structure. So I'm going to be focusing today on the multi-fund structure. Now, for a lot of people, we believe that you might not even know that your fund under the pension scheme has been shared into, different parts, which is Fund 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you are allowed to actually move from one fund to the other. So multi-fund structure was introduced into the pension scheme by National Pensions Commission in 2018 to replace the former single fund for the active RSA holders. This was introduced for customers, for RSA holders to actually know where their fund belongs to. And again, for you to have control over your fund in terms of where you want your PFA to invest your fund, because some are actually invested under the more on variable income and a little under the fixed income. So we are going to be explaining all the classification of funds that we have today to help you decide where you want your funds to be. So I'm going to be talking about Fund 1. Fund 1 is the aggressive fund, which actually is designed for under the age. For our customers that have clocked 50, if you notice, when you clock 50, we send a message to you informing you that your fund has been taken to Fund 3. And this is to reduce the risk involved, because we actually recognize the fact that from age 50, you can decide to retire voluntarily. And even PENCOM does not want PFAs playing around too much with your money in terms of investment so that you don't make loss while you want to retire. So for Fund 2, that's for everybody under the pension scheme within the age bracket 18 to 49. And the moment you clock 50, you're taken to Fund 3. And Fund 4 is the fund for retirees. So for every RSA holder that has come to assess their retirement pensions and you're 50, your fund is taken to retiree fund. Now, the Fund 5 is for micro pension, which was recently introduced also to the pension scheme. And I'm glad to let you know today that pension fund is no longer for only the office workers, the white collar people, like in the past, when you hear pensions, you assume it's for only office workers. But now everybody is entitled to pension under the new pension scheme. So that is why micro pension has been created. And under the micro pensions, which is the Fund 5, it doesn't matter the profession you belong to, fashion designing, even taxi drivers, barbers association, plumbers association, whatever you do at all, you are now entitled to pension. And again, I just wanted to know that nobody is going to work forever. That is established because as you are growing, even it will get to a point that your age will tell that, okay, you can no longer do this. So everybody needs to plan for their pension. That is why we now have micro pension fund. Now, Fund 6 is the ethical fund, and that is actually for strictly for religious reasons. Some people do not want their pension fund to be invested in alcohol or tobacco-related businesses. So they opt to for their fund to be taken to Fund 6. So now you might want to ask, how do you apply if you want your fund to be any of this fund as explained? So you have that choice of choosing where you want your funds to be. Now I'm going to talk about the investment pattern. We have variable income and fixed income. Fund managers are allowed to invest 100% of the portfolio under the variable income. And the minimum we're allowed to do is 20%. So your PFA can actually invest up to 70% under the variable income. Then for the Fund 2, the PFA is also allowed to invest up to 55% of the portfolio in a variable income. For the Fund 3, PFAs are allowed to invest maximum of 20% and 5% minimum in a variable income. Then for the Fund 4, PFAs are allowed to invest maximum of 10% under the variable income. Now you want to ask me, what are the variable incomes and the fixed income? Now going to the variable income, these are the investment instruments that generate income or returns that cannot be predetermined. You know, from the first day of investing under the variable income, you cannot really say, okay, this is the amount of interest you are going to get from that particular investment. So that's why it is generally believed that it is a risky and like the fixed income. Now, the example of the investment instruments under these variable income are the ordinary shares, CIS, real estate investment trusts, infrastructure funds, private equity, and so on and so forth. So these investments actually have potential to generate high returns. But I must tell you, if you want to move to Fund 1, for example, that has about 75% exposure in variable income. If you are the type that likes to check your app, now for the fixed income instruments, income instruments are the kind of investment that provide regular, predictable returns. So from the first day of investing under the type of investments, because from the moment you are investing, you already know how much you're going to get from the investment. For example, government bonds, treasury bills, bank deposits, and all that. So for that, you can be rest assured that, okay, at the end of, let's say, I'm investing for a particular quarter, I'm investing a particular amount or a month or whichever period, you already know the amount of returns that will come out of it. So we use the inter fund movements. The balance in your RSA will change if you're moving from one fund to the other. It doesn't change anything. So the multi-fund structure actually allows you more control over how your pension funds are invested based on your risk tolerance, as mentioned earlier, based on your age. Because some people, you might be 50, you might be 60, and you are still working. I've seen people that are still working even at age 70. So you might want to like, okay, even though I'm 50 and by default, my age has taken me to Fund 3. Now you can decide because you're 50 and let's say the terms and condition of your employment says your retirement age is 60. That means you still have 10 years to work. So for that, you can still ask us to take you back to Fund 2 for more returns on your money. Then we'll do that immediately. So now I'm going to talk about CPL Fund 2. I'm glad to announce to you and for our customers that are familiar with all our funds and how we've been investing, you can see the growth in your fund. And for us, we're not only about just return on investments, we're also about safety, we're also about security of your fund. And of course, we have the experience to manage your pension fund. So I'm sure you're happy with us and we want to encourage you to continue staying with us. Our Fund 2 price is actually the highest in the industry as of today. So if you are looking at enhancing our pension fund through the multi-fund structure, I encourage people that are 50 and above, and you're still active, you're still working to apply that we move you back to Fund 2 so that you can get more returns on your money. Okay, so in terms of okay, you want to ask why Crusaders selling pensions? What's so fantastic about us? I'm glad to also let you know that over the years, even before the pensions came and before the multi-fund structure started in 2018, we consistently led the industry in terms of returns for over 10 years. Until today, we are still leading, especially in Fund 2. Even all our funds are doing well. So if you check, you can even check online, you'll see our Fund 2 price is now 9.7 as of today. So that is the highest in the industry. And as our fund is growing, your money with us is also growing. So it's actually a plus for you as our contributor. And I'll also encourage those that are listening to us that are not with Crusader Sterling Pensions right now to actually join us. You know, transfer window is open, so you're free to join us. Also, another benefit you can get from Crusader Sterling Pensions is the fact that when you retire and you apply for your fund, I can assure you within 6 days, you get your money. So it's that seamless with Crusader Sterling Pensions. And there's nothing like going and coming. You can send all your documents to us online. Just inform us via email. You get, or you just text your account officer also. They will be able to guide you on how to go about your benefits. Within 6 working days, you get your money paid. And again, another thing about Crusader Sterling Pension, our board and management are stable. Then excellent customer service delivery. Then again, when you remit, if you notice, if you remit your money within 2 days, we operate on T+2, your account gets credited. Then we have good corporate governance culture. Okay, this is a Business Day publication from 2010 till date, how we've been leading the industry. This is for Fund 2 actually, and that is where we actually have majority of the workers. Because if you're looking at the age from age 18 to 49, that's actually where we have majority of the worker, and we are performing really, really well here. Also, okay, I'll just go to the frequently asked questions. You might be wondering, you might want to ask, can I split my additional voluntary contribution in a set fund type where my mandatory goes into another fund. Okay, I'm sure for those that joined our last webinar session, my ED, Mr. Femi, that I already talked extensively on additional voluntary contribution. So I would like to also refer you to our YouTube channel. You can check, you can read and listen more about additional voluntary contribution. So if you have a retirement savings account, you also have additional voluntary contribution. You are not allowed to actually split them into different funds, because as an RSA holder, you are only entitled to one PIN. So everything has to be together under the same fund. Okay. Another question, if an RSA holder makes a withdrawal such as 25% and then becomes unemployed over time, can he request for his fund to be moved from one fund to the other? Yes, you can actually move your fund, even though you have accessed 25%, it doesn't affect that, it doesn't stop you. Again, another question, if I decide to switch from fund 2 to fund 3, can I switch back to fund 3? The answer there is yes, you can actually switch back to fund 3 within 1 year. But if you're going to switch back before 1 year, that will attract a particular cost that will be determined by PENCOM. Then another question, with the new multi-fund structure, can I be given the option to choose which specific variable income instruments my fund can be invested in? The answer is no, you can't, because it's a pool of fund. Your fund is there, mine is there, so many other people are there. So you cannot really determine, you can't determine where we should invest for you. The PFA still has the power to invest where each fund will be invested in. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll still be around to answer your question for a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Oluwatoyin, for that enlightening session. I believe all of us in this webinar now are aware of the various pension fund classes that will likely belong to now, and our options for moving to other funds as regulated by the National Pension Commission, PENCOM. All right, so we're heading into the second session right away. But before that, please make sure you're dropping your questions in the Q&A section so that it doesn't get mixed up in the chat. Use the Q&A section just below your screen. We're having our second speaker right away in person of Chika Ejimofo. Chika Ejimofo is a legal officer at Custodian Trustees Limited with years of experience as an in-house legal counsel across several industries. She's an associate of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria and a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. Chika, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas. I will be sharing my screen now. Today, we'll be talking about estate planning as a tool for managing your finance for a secure future. Now, we'll be talking about estate planning. What is estate planning? Estate planning is a legal vehicle through which you transfer your assets to your loved ones in the event of death or incapacitation. Now, you'll be wondering, why do I need to plan my estates? You know, it's very essential to plan your estates. In our society today, when you tell people, you know, estate planning is a touchy subject. When you tell people to, have you prepared your will? Do you have a trust in place? You know, people tend to get offended because it seems as though you are wishing them death. But however, estate planning is a veritable tool that would ensure that your loved ones are taken care of in your absence. Now, there are different tools of estate planning, and would consider wills and trusts for our discussion today. Why do you need estate planning? Estate planning is needed to ensure that, you know, the transfer of your assets to your beneficiaries, your loved ones, is made easier and faster. You don't have to go through the stress that intestacy would bring. It would also ensure that your assets are given to your beneficiaries in accordance to your wishes. So if you have a daughter, let's say her name is Ada, and you want her to, you know, to have about 20% of your cash at bank, you know, it will be easier for her to be able to access those funds because you've planned your estate. It also helps to protect your beneficiaries, especially minors. We know what happens in the event of death. Let's say the burden of the family has gone, you know, at that point, there's rancor, everybody's coming from different areas to claim, you know, assets that have been worked for. by the loved one. So it ensures that your beneficiaries are protected and your minors, those who are below the age of 18, that they're adequately taken care of, because it allows you to provide for guidance, even executors who would administer your estate on their behalf. It also helps you avoid probate, the issues of taxes, and all sorts. Today, we are going to be looking at one of the tools of estate planning, which is will. What is a will? A will is an instrument through which a person who is called the testator will transfer his assets and his properties to named persons who are called the beneficiary in accordance to his wishes. So a will allows you, all the assets you've accumulated, your cash at bank, your pension benefits, your real estate assets, your shares. It allows you to transfer those assets to your beneficiaries, your loved ones, in accordance to your wishes. And a will takes effect upon the death of the testator. That's why we say a will is testamentary. Now, you'll be wondering, what are the requirements for a valid will? What are the things I have to do to ensure that my will is valid? First, at the time of preparing your will, you have to be of sound mind. You must be at least 18 years of age, showing you that even someone who is 18 years of age can prepare a will. It has to be signed, it has to be dated, witnessed by at least 2 persons, and it must be registered and lodged at the probate registry of the High Court. The documents you can make additions to your will when necessary. So a codicil helps you amend your will. You can make additions to your will, and you can also change, terms that you've stated in your will. Now, we are going to be looking at the second tool of estate planning, which is a trust. What is a trust? It's a legal arrangement whereby a person, who is called the settlor, transfers his or her assets to an entity called the trustee for the purpose of transferring that asset to the beneficiaries. So in this case, the settlor will now transfer the legal title in those assets to an organization who is called the trustee, who will then administer those assets on behalf of the beneficiaries. Now, for our discussion today, we have 2 types of trust. We'll be looking at the living trust, and we'll also be looking at the educational trust. What's a living trust? As the name implies, it's a trust that takes effect in survival, starts from during the lifetime of the settlor. And in this case, the settlor will transfer his assets to a trustee to be administered and managed on behalf of persons he has stated in the trust deed as his beneficiaries. So in a trust situation, there's something we call the trust deed, and this binds, it's like a constitution that governs the trust. So the settlor, sets out his wishes, what he wants to be done to his estate in the trust, and then the trustee works in accordance with the dictates of the trust deed. So like I said, a living trust, takes effect during the lifetime of the settlor. And a settlor can also be a beneficiary under a living trust. We also have what we call the educational trust. Now, this is a trust that is created, where parents and guardians, they want to be sure that their children are provided, with the highest standard of education that they desire. They want to ensure that at any time, because in the journey of life, mortality is a constant feature, and it's uncertain. So they want to just ensure that even if I'm here, even if I'm not here, my children, I want them to be doctors, lawyers, engineers. They are adequately provided for to meet their desires and to meet their needs. So this educational trust ensures that at all times, your children's educational needs are met, the trustee pays the tuition, and every other educational needs of your beneficiaries. Now, we'll be looking at how does a trust occur? What's the operational process for a trust? First, it will involve the settlor transferring his assets to the trustee for administration and distribution to the beneficiaries. That's when necessary, the trustee becomes the legal owner of the assets because the settlor has transferred his legal title in the assets to the trustee. And the trust becomes operational during the lifetime of the settlor in the event of a living trust. And upon the death of the settlor, the trustee would then transfer the asset to the beneficiaries as the trust deed has, dictated. Now, as in a role as trustees, what do? We regularly interface with our regulators to ensure that we are administering your trust in accordance to the regulations as put out by our regulators. We monitor and ensure compliance, that what we are doing is in line with the trust deed. We also administer and govern the assets to ensure that, veritable returns are gotten. And we also perform due diligence functions to ensure that at all times, there's no collusion, there's no fraud, and there's no mishap. Now, we are going to be looking at a very constant phenomenon in our Nigerian sector today. The people talk about next of kin. I have next of kin in my bank account. I wrote who my next of kin would be. We want to know that next of kin. What does the law say about a next of kin in Nigeria? In Nigeria, a next of kin is not someone who is important in the succession planning, in the sense that a next of kin is merely just the first contact point, the first person who will be contacted in the event of an emergency. I would just like to use an example. Most of us, we bought buses, we are going to our different states, maybe Enugu, the south and all of that. When you bought a bus, you are given a paper or a book where you put in the details of your next of kin, persons who they would call in the event of something happening. So that is basically the function of a next of kin. It's like an emergency contact. So the fact that I have put Olulokbe in my cash, in my bank as my next of kin does not necessarily mean that Tolokbe will be called upon to take my cash at bank in the event of my demise. So it's very essential as individuals that we plan our estates to ensure that our loved ones are adequately taken care of. Now, even the Pension Reforms Act recognizes that, estate planning, in the sense that it has provided that in the case where an employee dies, upon receipt of a valid will, that the benefits of the employee will be able to be assessed by that person's legal representatives. Now, we'll be looking at the reason as why would you want to use a trustee, to prepare your will or your trust. In the case of a will, for example, as trustees, they would ensure that your will is prepared in accordance with the requirements of the law and lodged at the probate registry of the courts. There are even times when we've had clients who meet us, even after we've admitted the will to probate, even after we've lodged the will as probate, they still meet us when there's a need for the grant of probate and even for the reading of the will to ensure that, and we guide them through the process. In the cases of a trust, a trustee would ensure that your assets are properly administered and distributed to your beneficiaries in accordance to what the trust deed provides. It's essential as individuals who have assets, cash at banks, to ensure that we plan our estates. Most of the times, we might feel that this is not for me, but most of the times you see that mortality being a constant thing. Nobody, if you don't prepare for it, your loved ones will be left. We've seen instances where someone would become diseased and his relatives will immediately swoop in. People you feel were okay with you, who were loved ones, they will just swoop in immediately and start taking things. I know my brother or my sister would have wanted me to have this. Some people swoop in from the death of demise and start asking for ATM cards and things of such. And at the end of the day, you find out that if you don't provide for your beneficiaries, they are left. Your loved ones are left. Or sometimes when one dies intestate, it's now the rules of the law governing the state that will then apply. You have to go through the strenuous process of trying to apply for a letter of administration. It becomes burdensome for the people that you have left behind. So it's very essential as individuals that we plan ourselves to ensure that our loved ones are taken good care of. And it also allows for peace of mind. For example, if you go online, you will see copies of the wills of the late Chief Kanifa Emi. You will see how he adequately provided for his family, even his sisters, his mother, even his children. They were adequately provided for. There was even a testamentary trust was even created in his will to ensure that in his absence, things continue to go well. And this would avoid rancor, and your loved ones will be adequately taken care of. So I would implore every one of us to plan our estates to ensure that our loved ones are taken care of and that there's peace of mind. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Chika, for that session. I believe that for all of us who are in this webinar right now, we've understood how we can preserve our end aid wealth for our loved ones. Also, I believe we now understand why we need to have a will, a trust, and very importantly, the difference between a next of kin and a beneficiary as permitted by the law. We'll be having our third speaker next, but before that, please remember to use the Q&A section for your questions. Also, we are live on YouTube, so you can tell your colleagues and friends to also join us on YouTube. Our third speaker this afternoon is Mr. Bamidele Babajide. Bamidele Babajide backs years of experience across various industries, including the pension industry. Currently, he heads the suspense and reconciliation unit at Crusader Sterling Pensions, where he works to ensure that your pension remittances are adequately credited. Bamidele, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, our esteemed viewers. And thank you for joining us on this second edition of Your Money, Your Future. My name is Bamidele. And this afternoon, I'll be talking on a topic that says impact of regulations on pension contribution. The outline, objectives, regulations governing pension remittance, schedule processing, remittance challenges. What are the objectives? First and foremost, to protect the customer. I'll just go ahead and share my screen now. Like I said earlier, what's our objective? To protect the customer, financial stability for them, and also to ensure compliance for all regulations that have been given to us by the National Pension Commission. The National Pension Commission is the body that's in charge of all pension matters, and they also ensure compliance to all regulations in the Pension Reform Act. For employers, there's a mandate for them to ensure that they remit the pension remittances of their employees through the pension fund custodian or the PFC. And there's a timeline that has been allotted for this, which is 7 days after the payment of salaries. So for employers and employees, they are all aware of these regulations and what is going to happen if the regulations are not strictly adhered to, which is penalties. So employers will do everything in their power to avoid these penalties. And also in the Pension Reform Act of 2014, employers that fail to remit the pensions of their employees, they are liable to penalties. And what is the penalty? 2% of the contributions. That is the penalty. All paid employees has been grouped into 3 categories by the National Pension Commission. So we have the public service of the Federation, and then we have the military, that is the armed forces, and then we have others, which includes the private sector also. So for these 3 categories that I have mentioned, the minimum contribution by the employer is 10%, and the minimum contribution by the employee is 8%. The addition of these 2 will give us 18% that should be remitted for the employee on a monthly basis. However, we have cases whereby the employee can say they want to shoulder the responsibility of this pension remittance, that is for both the employer leg and the employee leg. In such cases, what the employer needs to do is to remit not less than 20% of the monthly emolument of their employees. Types of remittances. We have different forms of remittances. Let's look at the monthly remittances, like the ones I just spoke about, the employee part and the employer part. That is the monthly remittance. However, we have other forms of remittances like the additional voluntary contribution. Additional voluntary contribution, that is popularly known as AVC. So what is this AVC about? Very simple. Probably we have an employee that says, what my employer is remitting for me is not satisfactory or is too small for me. Such a client can approach the employer and say, I give you an instruction, deduct this additional amount from my salary to add to my monthly pensions. And then we have approved existing schemes. Approved existing scheme. Under the approved existing scheme, we have the opening balance, we have the legacy, and the gratuity scheme. Then we also have the Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund. Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund, otherwise known as NSITF. These are remittances for clients who were in the pension industry prior to the commencement of the contributory pension scheme. And then we also have penalty remittance. Like I mentioned earlier, that this is a punitive measure from the commission to employers that fail to remit the monthly contributions of their employees. And then finally, we have the bond remittance. This kind of remittance is being made by the federal government and the state government. On this slide, we are looking at the pension remittance payment platforms. That is the payment platforms that can be used to make payment for pension remittance. We have the Pension Central, we have the PenPay, and then we have the Electronic Pensions Contribution Collection System, otherwise known as EPCOS. We also have CHAMS, PenRemit, PayPen, and then Remitter. This Remitter is the payment platform that's being used by many federal contributors and also parastatals. And then we now have the bank. That means the employer can also go physically to the bank and make the payment. All they need to do is to ask for the customized teller of the PFA. On the teller, we have the name of the PFA and the corresponding account number. The employers can go ahead, fill it, and make pension remittances on behalf of their employees. Schedule processing and validation. All schedules, all payments must come with schedules of contribution, otherwise known as SOC. That means every employer, for every payment that is made, it must come with a corresponding schedule of contributions. Then what are the objectives? This schedule of contributions, we put them together, and then once we have the payment and the payment has value, we process them within 2 days. That's T+2. Once we get the payment, we process them immediately. And then also, all these schedules are validated. What do we mean by validation? It's simply a vetting process to ensure that the correctness of that schedule. We want to check the name, we want to check the amount, check the PIN of the employee. Once we ensure, and this is done automatically, it's not manual, it's auto. Once we check it and everything is fine, then immediately the retirement savings account of the contributor is credited. And simultaneously, once that one is being done, SMS and email alert are dispatched to individual customers. And then finally, for all remittances that do not meet the specification of the pension guidelines, they are queried. And then immediately what is done? Reconciliation is done and resolution. For us at Crusader Sterling Pension, we pride ourselves to say customer is king, and we put our customers first, and customer satisfaction is our mantra. We do everything within our power to ensure that our customers are satisfied. If you look at my screen below, you see a picture of what a schedule of contribution looks like. So what are our expectations for a schedule of contribution? It must include the employer name, the employer code, then the employee name, which is the surname first, the first name, and other names. And also the valid PIN. Each schedule of contribution must come with valid PINs, and then the amount to be credited for each employee. So while processing these remittances, what are the challenges that has been encountered in the past? We have illegible schedules, blurry pictures, unclear scanned documents, or WhatsApp schedules. We have situations whereby the data or the information on the schedule is not clear. And the moment there's an issue with the integrity of that data, such remittance cannot be processed, because what is expected is a clean schedule, soft copy Excel that can be used to process without any need for copying anything. And then sometimes we also have schedules that are without pins and invalid pins. Then we have remittances that are already existing in the retirement savings account of the employee. So in such cases, what do we do as a PFA? We get back to the employer and let them know, you have paid for this month before, and you are sending us the same schedule for that same month that was previously credited last month. And then sometimes we have differences between the schedule amount and the amount that is remitted. So for instance, employer remitted 5,000, and then we have received a schedule for 7,000. Already there's a disparity. So in such cases, what do we do as the PFA? We get back to the employer to let them know that these schedules cannot be credited, and they should help us to review it and revert to us. And then also we have excess remittances or erroneous payments. Sometimes we have received remittances that are not meant for our own PFA, but for other PFAs. We also go back to give them the feedback. Then we have employers remitting for unregistered contributors. Now, at the point of entry into the pension industry, every client is issued what we call a PIN. That is the pension identification number. So, however, we have some contributors that are yet to get a PIN, maybe due to one issue or the other, maybe name mismatch, surname mismatch, or NIMC issues. So, in this regard, we can always assist. Just send a mail to our info. We'll find a way to assist such contributors. And then we have the data recapture exercise, otherwise known as DRE. So September 2024, the National Pension Commission did a revision of the guidelines for the documentations and the requirements. So they've grouped this exercise into two categories. We have the exercise for active contributors and retirees. If I say active contributors, what do I mean? I'm talking of contributors who are still in active service, those who are still working now and collecting salaries. So what are the requirements? What are the required documentation for them? Then we have the letter of employment or staff identity card. That means if the contributor does not have a letter of employment, in lieu, we could also accept staff identity card. And then also, we also require a means of identification, maybe a national driver's license or a permanent voter's card. And then for non-Nigerians, we require international passport. And then also, we also require enrollment slip from the National Identity Management Commission, otherwise known as NIMSI. Then we also require the birth certificate. All these requirements are for active contributors. And then for the retiree is the contributor that is no longer working again. They've retired and they are now on pensions. What is required of them? Number one, letter of retirement, which will be issued by their employer. Letter of retirement. And then also we also require either the national driver's license or permanent voter's card. And then for non-Nigerians who have worked in Nigeria before but now have retired, we require their international passport. And then we also require the enrollment slip from NIMSI. So over the years, we have got series of questions from some of our customers on various issues. So what we've done is a compilation of such questions, and we have also put the corresponding answers. So the first question, can my PFA help me follow up with my employer for unremitted contributions? Yes, we can. But what we always advise is it's better if the client follows up with the employer first, especially while they are still in active service. It's better they follow up with the employer for all those remittances. And then for us as PFA that pride ourselves in satisfying our customers and putting a smile on their faces, what do we do? On a monthly basis, we have a report that we send to the National Pension Commission. It's called the Recalcitrant Employers. And what's the essence of so that we ensure that non-paying employers are cautioned and probably a penalty can also follow it. Number two, what are the penalties for late pension? So like I said earlier, is 2% of the total contribution. That is the penalty for any employer that refuses to make payment for their employees. Number three, how are pension remittances calculated for employees? There are three allowances that are pensionable. We have the basic allowance, the housing, and the transport. The addition of these three, so from these three allowances, 8% is deducted for the employee portion, and the employer pays 10%. The addition together gives us 18%. Then number four question, can I use my pension contributions as a collateral for loan? As we speak now, there is no provision for such in the Pension Reform Act. So for now, the answer is no. You cannot use your pension contribution for any loan. Number five question, what are the implications of changing employment on a contributor's pension contributions? There is no change at all. At the point of entry, each contributor is appointed one PIN, and it's a lifetime PIN that you can use throughout your service. So that means all you need to do is once you change from one employment to the other, just advise your new employer with that PIN, and then such client is good to go. The employer will continue to remit the pension into the same PIN. Another question, how do I update my profile after change in employment? We have a document that is called a mandate document. So what the client needs to do is just to get back to the PFA, and that document is given to them, they fill it, and then it's sent back to the PFA. So the PFA uses that mandate to update the records of the client. Another question, can I access 25% twice before I reach the retirement age? The answer is no. According to the Pension Reform Act, a client can only access 25% once, and this can only happen if such an individual loses their jobs or according to the terms and conditions of their employment. And finally, what are the advantages of payment platforms? So for the payment platforms, what are the advantages? Number one, it affords the employer ease to make payment from the comfort of their offices. And then secondly, they are able to monitor that remittance because on the platform, it will show them either it's processed or is still outstanding. That is all for now. I want to say a big thank you to all our viewers all over the world. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Bamidele, for that session. I believe that we all better understand some reasons why we're experiencing delays in creating our pension accounts, and also the roles that we as contributors and our PDOs have to play to ensure that our pension remittances are promptly credited so that we can enjoy timely returns on our pension front. Thank you so much once again. Right now, we're heading into the Q&A session. Some of our questions have already been answered, and so we'll be taking those that are yet to be answered. Okay, so I have a question here. I think this question would go to, this is for Oluwatoyin. So Daramola is asking, okay, Toyin, Bola is asking, please, what is mortgage to my pension? What does mortgage have to do with our pension?
Okay, Daramala, good afternoon. About mortgage, now in our pension industry, mortgage was recently introduced. So now for people that has been working for a minimum of 60 months, you've been remitting pensions, you can now access 25% of your pension through mortgage. So for that, you need to get a mortgage company, you get a property company as well, a property that you like, then we'll pay the 25% as deposit to the mortgage company. Then the rest will be spread for you to pay for the remaining period of your working period. Let's say you are 40 years old and you want to apply for mortgage now. You can access 25% through mortgage. Then that means if your employment, if the terms and condition of your employment is saying 60 years is the retirement age, that means you still have 20 years to pay for the remaining balance to the mortgage company. So that's how it works.
Okay, thank you so much, Toyin, for that. Moving on. So we have a question here for Chika because this is about the trust. So Chika, Josephine is asking, please, how does the education trust work? Josephine is asking, education trust work? Does Crusader pay my child's school fees every term, or is it money kept till he can access it later?
Okay, thank you, Dorcas. At Consultant Trustees Limited, the educational trust works in the sense that we are the ones who pay your children's school fees every term. So the money or the asset is given to us to hold in trust, and we pay the fees of your children at every term, and also reinvest, the assets in the case of a cash out bank. We also reinvest it, the remnants remaining after we have paid out the school fees. We also reinvest it to be able to get, returns on those funds. So yes, we pay your children's fees per term. Thank you.
Thank you. Chika, still on you, please. We have another question for you. So Uche is asking, is there a minimum asset level required to do a trust?
Okay, for a trust, there's no minimum asset level required. To set up a trust, it depends on the set law and the purpose for which he or she wants to set that trust up for. So what we majorly do at times, what we do is to advise, intending settlers to get in touch with us, for clarity and all, to enable us design what that person would want his or her trust to be used for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chika. We have a question here for Bamidele. So someone is asking, are you saying that after processing pension on EPCO's platform, we still need to send the schedule to Crusader Sterling for further processing? So I think the person wants to know that after doing the payment on EPCOS, do they still need to send the schedule again to Crusader Sterling Pensions? Bamidele, please.
So for this question, the employer does not need to send the schedule to us. For us in Crusader Sterling Pensions, we have access to the EPCOS platform. And as a matter of fact, on a daily basis, we go to this platform and download all the corresponding schedules that have been received on behalf of our employers. And once we get them, we process them with immediate effect. The only thing that can make us to revert back to an employer, like I said, is if there's anything inside that schedule that does not conform with the pension guidelines. We'll get back to the employer and the issue will be resolved. So there's no need to send the schedule again once because we can access EPCO's platform and then we'll process the schedule. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Bamidele. Still with Bamidele, Yinka wants to know, how do I fund my pension now that I am not employed under any organization for this period?
Okay, thank you. So for that question, what the client is asking is, he's no longer working, can he still continue to fund his pension? Now, for that one, there's a provision for people that are working in the informal sector. Because for you to continue using that PIN and that pension account, that means you must be gainfully employed somewhere. But if you have your own business yourself, personally, what you need to do is you need to register that business with the Corporate Affairs Commission, and then an employer code will be issued to that client. And once that one is done, such an employer can just continue to remit for themselves. But a situation whereby maybe the person is in the informal sector, that means the person will now be doing what we call the micro pensions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that enlightenment, Bamidele. Okay, this is for Toyin. Please keep your questions coming. You can use the Q&A section so that we don't lose track of them. Okay, Toyin, I have a question here for you. This is about the fund types. So someone is asking, this is my first time hearing about the fund types. I am 30. What fund class should I be? And what are the funds I can move to? And also, what of my dad who is 58 years old?
Okay, thank you. For someone like 30 years old, your age automatically puts you in Fund 2. So you're in Fund 2, and you have the right to move to Fund 1 if you like. Hope you've listened to what Fund 1 entails and Fund 2. You can make your decision if you like to move to Fund 1. But for now, you're in Fund 2. And for your dad, he's 58 years old. He's definitely in Fund 3 as well. Like I mentioned earlier, from age 50, you are in Fund 3. So your dad can actually move to Fund 2 if he wants. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Toyin. I believe that answers the question. Chika, please. So this person is asking, how does the education trust work? Is it while I'm alive, or the child can only access it when I pass?
Okay, thank you, Dorcas. The educational trust also works during your lifetime and not just when you are deceased. So during your lifetime, you can also, on your behalf, make payments to the school your loved ones are attending on your behalf. Yes, thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Chika. I believe that does. I believe that does. Bamidele, this is for you. Bola is asking, my husband has a pension account with Crusader, but her husband is late now. So how can she access the fund?
Okay. Thank you, Dorcas. So the client is asking that her husband is late and he has an account with Crusader Pensions. How can she access it? So there are two things that could have happened. One is either the husband became late while he was in active service, or he was already on monthly pensions with Crusader Sterling Pensions before his demise. So first and foremost, we want to say sorry concerning the demise of your husband. Secondly, if it was on monthly pensions, I would advise that the first thing you need to do is to write a letter to Crusader Sterling Pensions to inform us of the demise of your husband, and then you write a letter of what we call a letter of stoppage of monthly pensions. So that means we will be aware that he is late, and then his monthly pensions will be stopped so that we can now give you the requirements that you need to have, the documents that you need to submit before you can access his pension. However, if he was still in active service when he became late, all you need to do is, if you can send a mail to our info to just let us know. So once we know, and then we'll send you through our customer care, we'll send you the requirements, because there's a list of documentations that need to be submitted before the beneficiary can access the pension benefit. So if it was an active service, just send a mail to our info service, info@crusaderpensions.com. Once we have that letter of information of the passage of the client, we'll send you the documentations required. And once those documents are submitted, then it will be processed to PENCOM. Upon receival of approval, then the payment will be made to the account of the beneficiary. Thank you.
Thank you, Bamidele. Before you go, somebody wants to know. Ronti is asking, please, if I resign from my place of work at 49 and request for 25% of my pension, the next year, when I attain the age of 50 years, what percentage of the remaining pension do I get?
All right. Thank you. So the client is asking that if she collects 25% at the time she was 49 years, then once she now clocks 50 and wants to access her retirement benefit, what percentage will be given to her? So after you have collected your 25%, whatever is remaining in your retirement savings account will be used to calculate a template for you. So nobody can say nobody can predict and say this is the percentage of what you will get. But according to the Pension Reform Act, what he said is that a client can get between 25% to 50%. And there are 4 parameters that can be used to calculate the template. That is the RSC balance, the retirement savings account balance of the contributor, the age at retirement, the sex, the code for it will be given to the client. She will look at it. That template will also be sent to the National Pension Commission for vetting before the approval is gotten. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bamidele, for that. I have another question for you, Bamidele. This has a lot for you, actually. Okay, so Dr. Angela wants to know, I worked at a private university for 4 years, and they paid my pension for only 1 month, but they deducted my pension all the months they paid, for all the month they paid my salary, but never credited my pension fund. So Dr. Angela worked for 4 years. They credited her pension, they debited her pension for that 4 years, but they only paid her for a month. Now she's asking, what can that standing pension do about this? Because Crusader has been a pension fund all this while.
Okay. So in this case, the client has worked for a while, but after some time, the employer did not remit, they only paid for 1 month. So from our own end as the PFA, we can assist to follow up for the client, but it's 2 ways. We, the PFA, we have an action that we can take, and then also the client too also have some actions to take. So the client can get official notification or acknowledgement from the employer that indeed they are actually owing her. That's the first step. And then also she can write us that we should help her to follow up after the evidence has been provided, which is that acknowledgement that they are actually owing her for this particular period. So once we have the evidence, we help her to also follow up. And also the commission has appointed some people that are called recovery agents. The responsibility of these agents is to go to these employers, calculate the outstanding remittances, and bring out the penalties and ensure that the employer makes the remittance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bamidele. Oluwatoyin, we have a question for you. This person is asking, what is the negative implication of moving back from Fund 3 to Fund 2? That's from Falashade. She wants to know what's the negative thing that could happen if she moves from Fund 3 to Fund 2, moving back.
Okay, thank you, Folashade. There is no negative implication at all. Like I mentioned during the presentation, your money is still the same amount while moving the fund. So there's no negative implication at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Also, Oluwatoyin, someone is asking, as an entrepreneur, can I open a pension account for my workers and they'll be paying themselves? So he or she wants to open and then the workers will be paying by themselves.
Okay. He wants to open an account and the workers will be paying themselves. Okay, now I would like to ask, is it a registered company? If it's a registered company, then you have to register your company officially. Then they have to be paying through the company. We are going to generate what we call an employer code. You register the name of your company with National Pensions Commission. So if what the law says is, as long as you have a minimum of 3 staff, you need to actually join the pension scheme and start remitting your portion of 10% to them, while the employees pay 8%. That's actually what the National Pension Commission says about that. So it depends on how many staff you have. It depends on if your company is registered But if it's just a business that is not registered, maybe you just have one staff, then you can now they can register under the micro pension scheme, as explained earlier. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Toyin. I'm moving on to Chika now. Chika, Matthew is asking, you mentioned living trust and education trust. What other things can I do a trust for?
Okay, thank you, Dorcas. You can create a trust to meet the needs of your beneficiaries as much as you want. I just cited that for the purpose of this discussion, we are going to be looking at a living trust and educational trust. We also have what is called a testamentary trust. That's a trust created in a will, that takes effect after the death of the settlor. So it depends on what you want your trust to be created for. So we are here at Poseidon Trustees Limited to meet your needs in accordance to what your wishes are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chika. This is for Luatoyin. Sam is asking, am I able to withdraw any amount if I'm above 50 years and still working? Luatoyin, please.
Thank you, Sam, for the question. If you're 50 and you're still working, you cannot withdraw your pension because, like the name says, it is called retirement savings account. So if the law now permits everybody that is 50 to come and access their fund, that means the whole purpose is defeated. What do you fall back on when you retire? Because after retirement, you might still have 20, 30 years to live. So I think PENCOM is more concerned about that old age when you are no longer working, when you are no longer active like you used to. So the whole idea is for you to have something to fall back on upon retirement. So even though you're 50 and you're still working, your pension remittances are still coming into your PFA. You are not allowed to actually access it. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much for that, Toyin. We have some questions from Bamidele. Okay, so Samuel wants to know, what efforts can the PFA do to assist one in merging the NSITF contributions to the RSA contribution? Samuel is asking.
All right. Thank you, Samuel, for that question. So, for the NSITF contribution, what we can do is just to upload it into your RSA account. But if you want to collect it, you can collect it. So we don't merge it, it's there. And once it's uploaded into your retirement savings account, it shows clearly as NSITF remittance. But if you want to collect it as your pension benefit, it's possible for you to access it. You can access it just like additional voluntary contribution. You can also access that one. But they are clearly stated in the RS. It is quite different from your monthly remittance. So, but at the point of when you now retire, we will now calculate everything together and pay it to you as a lump sum and then monthly drawdown. But if you want to access ETF separately before you retire, you have the liberty to do such. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, so Ayokule is asking, how do you register on EPCOS platform? As I tried to register my employer, and it keeps coming back that the company is not registered. So Ayokule wants to know how will he register on EPCOS platform?
Okay, thank you, Ayokunle. So for this kind of scenario, you said you tried registering and it's showing from EPCOS that your company is not registered. So the first thing that readily comes to mind is that company, is it registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission? So maybe we can give you our phone number or our email. So we'd like to do further investigation. We also like to check the database of the National Pension Commission, which is called the ECRS. Let's see, is that employer also registered there so that we can know the nature of the issue and how to address it. So we'll check, and then from there, if you have not been registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, so I think the first step will be to get the company registered. Once it is registered, it will be updated on the EPCOS platform and all other pension payment platforms that this company has now been registered with CAC. Then it will now be easy for you to register on EPCOS. But if your company is not registered with the CAC, then it might be a little bit difficult. So I would suggest, sir, that probably check if you have been registered with the CAC. If not, let's do that first. But if you have been registered with CAC and it's still saying not registered on EPCO's platform, we would like to have your details, sir, so that we can assist you and follow up with EPCOS on your behalf, and we'll know where the issue is coming from and it will be addressed immediately. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that, Bamidele. Before you go, Olorunfemi is asking, please, I have two accounts, one with Crusader Sterling Pensions and two with Fidelity Pension. I want to move it to Crusader, but Fidelity Pension is not cooperating. How do I go about it?
Okay, so thank you, sir, for that question. So what we are going to do is what we call account merging. So the first thing that we'll do is those two pins, we might need to find out which of those two pins, the one for Crusader Pensions and Fidelity, which one of them is on ECRS. What the commission is saying is that it's the pin that's on ECRS that is the final pin. So, sir, what we will require is we need additional information to find out between the Crusader Sterling pin and the Fidelity pin, which one is registered on ECRS. Because if it's the Fidelity pin that is registered on ECRS, then that means the money for Crusader we have to go to this. So, sir, we need that additional information. So if you can give it to us, then we'll be able to follow up. Just drop that pin for us on our info, and then we'll follow up for you, sir.
Okay, so we're gradually rounding up the session. Gradually, I think I have just one question left for each person so that we can wrap up the session. Okay, so Josephine is asking, this is for Chika. So the contribution for the education trust, is it from my employer, or do I have to make the arrangement with Crusader Sterling Pension separately? Then also, is there a metric to ensure that the fee is not more than the contribution? And then can I have you follow up on setting the trust?
Okay, thank you, Dorcas. Okay, Josephine, to answer your questions, now the contribution for the education trust is from you personally. So it's a separate arrangement that you make with us as Custodian Trustees Limited. Also, yes, there's a matrix to ensure that the fee is no more than the contribution. So we sit with you as a seller, to map out a plan to ensure the longevity of the trust, to ensure that the funds that will be paid out on a quarterly basis as school fees for your children, would be that the funds will be able to meet up with that. So this is what we do with you together to ensure that there's a longevity of the fund. And also, I don't know if you'll be comfortable dropping your email for us to be able to follow up with you on. You can drop your email at the Q&A, and I can also provide our email with you too to ensure that we follow up with you for creating the trust. Thank you. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you for that, Mika. I believe we've done justice to that. And I think that with this, we'll begin to wind down the session. Just in case we've not answered your question, please. Okay, let's just have one more. Someone is asking, what happens when there is no more money coming in for my pension? For example, I am no longer based in Nigeria. How long do I wait till I can get my pension? That's for Bamidele, please.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that question. So the questioner is asking that if pension contributions is no longer coming to RSA, what do I do? And I'm no longer in Nigeria. So if what the law says is that if anybody is no longer working, maybe due to so this kind of person, what you need to do, sir, is to gather your documentations and send it to the PFA, maybe through email. And once they are satisfied with the documentation, your application will be processed and then you can access your pensions. But it has to be 4 months after that employment. 4 months after. Once it's 4 months, then you can apply. Once you don't get another job, that's what the regulations say. Once you don't get another job, then you can apply to get your benefits. Thank you. I hope this answers your question.
All right, thank you very much, Bamidele, for that. And with this, we have come to the end of the webinar series. I want to appreciate everyone. Thank you for joining us in this second session. I trust that we've all learned some things that we need to start doing to ensure that we are getting the best return from our pension funds in terms of choosing the pension class to belong to and also proper pension remittance processes. We've also learned the things that we can do to preserve our health for our loved ones, and we trust that you put all this valuable information to immediate use. We appreciate all our speakers for your insightful session and valuable knowledge to equip us for financial success. And for us at Crusader Sterling Pensions, We remain committed to empowering you for financial success now and for the future. We're also present on social media across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn as CS Pension. Once again, we want to thank you so much for participating this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you at our subsequent sections. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and we wish you Merry Christmas in advance. Thank you.